We're constantly rushing, moving from one task to another, our minds darting to the next worry, the next goal, the next deadline. Yet, deep down, there's this nagging feeling that we're missing something, like there's a vital part of life that's slipping through our fingers. What if, just for a moment, we allowed ourselves to stop? Today, I want to introduce you to a concept that might seem simple but is so incredibly transformative: the power of the present moment. Now, I know you've probably heard this before, maybe in passing: live in the now, focus on the moment. It sounds cliché, but have you ever truly tried it? I mean, have you ever sat with the now without letting your mind rush back to the past or jump to the future? This first part is all about realizing that the present moment is all we really have. The now isn't just a place we pass through on our way to something better. It's where life actually unfolds, where we can feel every breath, every beat of our heart, every subtle sensation. It's the space where peace lives, not in some distant someday when everything is perfectly aligned. To really understand this, we have to look deeper than just words. It's about pausing and allowing ourselves to notice what's happening right here, right now, without wanting to change it. It's about letting go of that urge to fix, control, or perfect everything around us. And honestly, I'll admit it's not easy. Our minds are trained to crave control, to look ahead, to stay busy. But if we can just let ourselves be in this moment, we can start to feel a profound shift in how we see life. Personally, when I first started to really live in the now, it wasn't some dramatic transformation. It was subtle. It was like waking up from a dream, seeing colors more vividly, feeling sounds and sensations in a way I hadn't noticed before. Every single moment felt like it was alive, like it had something to tell me if I just listened. That's the real beauty of it. The present moment doesn't demand anything from us, but it offers everything if we're open to it. So, here's the invitation. What if, for today, we chose to step out of the rush, out of the noise, and just let ourselves be? To see that right now, we're already in the only moment that truly matters. If this message resonated with you, if you felt even a spark of curiosity about living more fully in each moment, then you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and join a community that's diving deep into finding purpose, peace, and a higher connection. Don't forget to give this video a like, because together we're opening doors to a richer, more mindful way of living. Every like, every comment, every subscriber helps spread this message of transformation. So come along and let's walk this journey of self-discovery together. So, we've talked about how the present moment is all we really have. Now, let's get into what that truly means on a soul level, on a level that goes beyond just being here. The present, this very moment, holds something extraordinary, a kind of richness that most of us overlook, distracted by thoughts of yesterday or tomorrow. But think about it, when was the last time you allowed yourself to feel like this moment, right here, was enough? It's fascinating because we live our lives constantly striving, reaching, pushing forward as if happiness, peace, or fulfillment exists somewhere in the future. But here's the radical truth. The now isn't just something to pass through, it's where life actually unfolds. It's where we experience love, joy, wonder, even sadness. But most importantly, it's the only place where true freedom can exist. When we're fully present, we're not shackled by regrets of the past or anxieties about the future. We're just here, alive, breathing, free. I'll share something personal. I used to think that happiness would come when I reached a certain goal or achieved something specific. But every time I got there, the happiness was fleeting, and my mind was already chasing the next thing. It was only when I began to center my focus on the present, really letting myself sink into it, that I discovered a deep sense of contentment I'd never felt before. I realized that I didn't have to wait to feel whole. Wholeness was already here, waiting for me to notice it. Imagine that. Imagine realizing that you are already enough, that this moment, however imperfect it might seem, holds everything you need. So here's my challenge to you. What would happen if you made the now your priority? If you could accept, even just for a second, that there's nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to achieve, that this is enough? We've recognized the now as the only place where life truly exists, but how do we actually experience it? This is where mindfulness, true, raw, and sometimes challenging mindfulness, comes in. And I'm not just talking about closing your eyes, breathing deeply, and trying to block out thoughts. It's much more subtle, more intimate than that. Mindfulness is about inviting every moment into your awareness, letting it exist without trying to push it away or control it. Imagine taking a walk, but this time, instead of letting your mind wander to all the usual noise, worries, plans, judgments, you just observe. You feel the cool breeze on your skin, hear the leaves crunching underfoot, sense your breath flowing in and out. In these moments, the world feels both wider and somehow closer. It's like, for the first time, you're actually living in it, not just passing through. Now, I'll be honest, this isn't always easy. The mind is used to naming, labeling, sorting everything into neat little categories. I used to struggle with this myself. Every sound, every feeling, every thought would come with a judgment. I like this, I hate that, this is good, this is bad. It's exhausting, isn't it? Constantly putting up walls between yourself and what's actually happening, as if we're trying to fit the world into a narrow set of expectations. And when I finally allowed myself to just observe without labeling, I felt something lift, as if I'd been carrying this weight I didn't even know was there. When you stop trying to categorize every experience, you begin to realize that there's a quiet, peaceful clarity that emerges. You no longer feel the need to control each moment or make it something other than it is. And you know what? That's when life starts to surprise you. You see beauty where you hadn't noticed it before. You find wisdom in simple things, like the way sunlight dances on leaves or how the sound of laughter fills a room. There's this richness in everything, even in silence. So, let this be an invitation. The next time you feel the urge to label or judge, pause. Notice it. Let it drift by without grabbing hold. Because when we drop the labels, we open ourselves to the pure, unfiltered experience of life. And that is where true peace and joy live. Now, here's a truth that can feel both freeing and challenging. Accepting the present moment exactly as it is. No adjustments, no edits, no it should be this way. Just a full embrace of what is. I know it sounds simple, but when you try it, you might find that the mind resists. It wants things to be different, better, or more comfortable. It's almost as if we're wired to constantly tweak and mold life to fit our idea of perfection. But here's the thing. That need for control is what stands between us and real, lasting peace. Think about it, how much of our inner turmoil comes from fighting reality? We get frustrated because we wish things were different, we feel anxious because we fear what's coming, or we feel regret because we wish the past could change. But when we accept the present as it is, without resisting, there's a sense of release, almost like exhaling after holding your breath for too long. It's not that challenges magically disappear, it's that our relationship to them shifts. We stop exhausting ourselves by trying to control the uncontrollable. Personally, I used to be someone who fought against the present constantly. If things weren't going my way, I'd feel frustrated, as if I had failed in some way. But when I started practicing acceptance, truly letting each moment be as it was, something powerful happened. I began to feel a calmness I hadn't known before, a kind of quiet strength that didn't depend on everything around me being just right. I realized that true peace isn't about avoiding challenges or struggles. It's about being fully present with them, letting them be part of our experience without resistance. This acceptance is a doorway to something profound, a kind of love and appreciation for life in its raw, imperfect form. And maybe that's where true freedom lies, not in the absence of difficulties but in our willingness to meet them with an open heart. Because when we stop trying to mold life into something it isn't, we make space for peace, for joy, and for a deep connection with the essence of who we are. So here's a thought to hold close. The next time you find yourself resisting what's happening, pause. Ask yourself, what if I just let this be? Because sometimes, the very thing we're pushing against is the path to our own freedom. We've touched on the power of acceptance, but there's another piece here that goes hand in hand, the release of attachment and expectation. Now, attachments and expectations can be tricky, they often feel like they're part of who we are. We attach ourselves to outcomes, to people, to ideals of how things should be, believing that our happiness is tied to these things going a certain way. But this attachment, this constant grasping, is like trying to hold water in a closed fist. It slips away, leaving us frustrated and empty-handed. Think about it. How often have we tied our peace to a future outcome? If I just achieve this, then I'll be happy, or, when things fall into place, I'll finally relax. We invest so much energy in controlling these outcomes, but life has its own plans. And when things don't go as expected, we suffer. But imagine just for a moment what it would feel like to let go of those rigid expectations. To allow life to unfold without holding on so tightly. This has been a lesson I've had to learn the hard way. I spent years pushing, striving, chasing after the life I thought I needed to feel fulfilled. And honestly, the more I chased, the emptier I felt. It was only when I began loosening my grip on these attachments and allowing life to flow that I found something I hadn't expected. A calm, steady joy that didn't depend on things going my way. There's a powerful freedom that comes from releasing those attachments, a kind of lightness that lets you dance with life rather than wrestle it. Now, this isn't about giving up on our dreams or goals. It's about letting go of the desperation, the need to control every detail. It's about finding joy in the journey rather than waiting for some imagined finish line. When we stop clinging to how things should be, we create space for life to surprise us, to bring gifts we never could have planned. So here's an invitation. Next time you catch yourself gripping tightly to a specific outcome or expectation, ask yourself, what if I released this? What if I allowed myself to be open to whatever comes? Because sometimes, in letting go, we find exactly what we were searching for all along. Imagine for a moment that you are not your thoughts, that the constant stream of ideas, worries, memories, and daydreams running through your mind doesn't define you. This practice of de-identifying from our thoughts is incredibly liberating and can open us up to a whole new way of experiencing life. Most of us live in such close proximity to our thoughts that we end up completely entangled in them. If a fearful thought arises, we feel fear. If a judgmental thought surfaces, we feel resentment or irritation. But what if these thoughts were like clouds, passing through the sky of our minds, rather than truths we need to cling to? What if we could simply observe them, letting them drift by without grabbing hold? I used to believe every single thought that crossed my mind. If I thought something negative about myself, I accepted it as fact. But when I started to step back and simply watch my thoughts, I began to notice something remarkable. Thoughts come and go, constantly shifting, changing, and contradicting themselves. They aren't permanent and they aren't necessarily true. In fact, they're often just echoes of old fears or conditioning, not reflections of who we really are. As I began to observe my thoughts instead of identifying with them, I noticed a calm presence beneath them, a part of me that wasn't wrapped up in the mental chatter. This presence, this awareness, was stable, peaceful, and unaffected by whatever was passing through my mind at the moment. And that awareness, that quiet observer, felt like the truest part of me. Here's the power of this practice. When we learn to observe our thoughts without identifying with them, we gain freedom. We're no longer tossed around by every passing emotion or belief. We become the sky, vast and open, allowing the clouds to come and go without losing our sense of self. This shift brings a profound inner peace, a realization that we are so much more than the stories running through our minds. So, I invite you to try this today. When a thought arises, especially a stressful or critical one, take a breath and notice it. Just observe without judgment. Ask yourself, what if I don't need to believe this thought? What if I can just let it pass? Because when we step back from our thoughts, we create space for something deeper, something truer to emerge. And in that space, we find a freedom that no thought could ever give us. This is where we take all the acceptance, all the letting go, all the mindful observation, and we allow ourselves to trust in something beyond our need to control. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It's not about passivity. It's about realizing that life has an intelligence, a rhythm, and a mystery that's far greater than our own limited understanding. There's a beautiful power in surrendering to what we cannot explain, to what we cannot predict. It's about letting go of our constant need for certainty and security and embracing life as it comes, with all its twists and turns. Personally, this concept used to terrify me. I thought, if I'm not in control, if I don't know what's going to happen next, how can I be safe? But the more I practiced surrender, the more I realized that true safety isn't about controlling everything around me. It's about trusting that no matter what comes, I am capable of moving through it. When we surrender to life, we begin to notice the beauty in its unpredictability. We become open to experiences and opportunities we couldn't have planned for. We start to see that every challenge, every unexpected moment, carries a lesson, a gift, if we are willing to embrace it without resistance. It's like being on a river. When we stop fighting the current, we flow with it, and the journey becomes one of ease and discovery. I'll share something from my own experience. Surrendering has brought me closer to a feeling of inner peace than any amount of planning or control ever could. By trusting that I am supported by something greater, whether you call it life, the universe, or even just the natural flow of things, I've found a sense of belonging and harmony that's beyond words. It's a kind of peace that doesn't depend on circumstances because it comes from within. So, here's an invitation for you. The next time life throws you a curveball or something doesn't go as planned, try surrendering. Instead of resisting or grasping for control, take a deep breath and say to yourself, I trust in the flow of life. Allow yourself to open up to the mystery, to trust that whatever happens, it's part of a larger picture that you may not yet see. Because in surrender we find not weakness, but a strength rooted in the deep, unshakable foundation of our own being. In a world filled with constant noise, endless to-dos, and distractions pulling us every which way, finding silence is like stumbling upon an oasis in the desert. It's here, in this inner stillness, that we touch something profoundly transformative, an unshakable peace that doesn't depend on what's happening outside us. It's as if, in silence, we reconnect with a deeper part of ourselves, a part that is untouched by the chaos of life. For me, discovering the power of silence was life-changing. At first, it felt strange, almost uncomfortable, like I was missing something or should be doing more. But gradually, I began to notice that in these quiet moments, I felt a kind of freedom I hadn't known before. A freedom from all the pressures and expectations that usually fill my mind. It was in these moments that I could hear my own thoughts clearly, without judgment, and let them come and go without being overwhelmed by them. This silence is more than the absence of noise, it's a state of being. It's a calm, centered place within where we meet ourselves fully, where we can feel the essence of who we are beyond labels, roles, and responsibilities. And from this place, we don't need validation or approval from anyone else because we're grounded in something real and timeless within ourselves. The beautiful thing about this silence is that it doesn't just bring us peace, it opens the door to a more genuine experience of life. When we're no longer swept up in every passing thought or external expectation, we can approach each moment with a fresh perspective, with a gentleness and compassion that we may not have felt before. So, here's an invitation. Set aside a few minutes each day to sit in silence, just you and your breath. No expectations, no goals, just a willingness to be with whatever arises. Notice how, in that silence, there's a stillness, a clarity that starts to emerge. And as you practice, let this silence become your anchor, a place you can return to whenever life feels overwhelming. Because in that quiet space within, we find a sanctuary. We find a peace that goes beyond understanding, a peace that is there for us always, waiting patiently for us to simply listen. Think about how much of our energy we spend trying to gain approval from others, striving for recognition, hoping that someone out there will tell us we're good enough, that we're worthy. But what if I told you that this search for validation outside of ourselves is like chasing a shadow? No matter how much we achieve or how many people applaud us, it will never truly fill that space within us. The only lasting fulfillment comes when we let go of the need for validation and recognize our own inherent worth. This has been one of the most profound shifts in my own life. There was a time when I measured my value by how others perceived me, always feeling like I had to prove myself to earn love and respect. But the more I relied on external sources to feel whole, the more I realized that this kind of validation was fleeting. It could never satisfy that deeper hunger for acceptance because it was always conditional, always at the mercy of others' opinions. The truth is, when we turn inward and start valuing ourselves from a place of true self-acceptance, we discover a kind of strength and freedom that nothing and no one can take away. We're no longer swayed by the highs and lows of others' perceptions. We start to realize that we are enough, just as we are, with all our imperfections and unique qualities. This self-acceptance opens us up to a deeper kind of love, not just for ourselves but for others as well. We stop judging others because we no longer feel the need to compete, to compare, or to prove ourselves. So, how do we get there? It starts with gentle self-acknowledgement. Every time you find yourself seeking approval or doubting your worth, pause. Remind yourself that you don't need someone else's validation to feel whole. Practice speaking to yourself with kindness, with understanding like you would to a dear friend. Over time, this practice begins to reshape how you see yourself and how you feel about the world around you. So here's a thought to carry with you. You are already whole, already worthy, already enough. Let go of the need for others to affirm this. The peace, the joy, the love you're seeking are within you. And when we stop looking for validation outside of ourselves, we step into a life that feels profoundly free, a life where we are truly at home within our own hearts. If this journey is resonating with you, if you feel even a spark of peace or inspiration from what we're exploring together, then make sure to hit that subscribe button. Don't miss out on more content that dives deep, challenges the ordinary, and guides you toward a life of true inner freedom and fulfillment. And don't forget to give this video a like. It's a small action, but it means the world to this channel and helps spread these messages to others who are searching for a new way to live. So join our community, hit that bell for notifications, and let's continue this path to transformation together. Through this journey, we've explored the power of being fully present, of accepting life as it is, of letting go of attachments and expectations, of observing our thoughts without becoming them, of surrendering to the flow of life, finding peace in inner silence, and releasing the need for external validation. Each step has brought us closer to one profound truth. True freedom, true joy, and true peace come from within. This is where we see that the journey was never about changing who we are or fixing ourselves. It was about uncovering the deeper, wiser part of us that has been there all along, waiting for us to notice it. When we stop the endless pursuit of more and embrace the wholeness that exists in the present moment, we experience a kind of liberation that no external achievement or approval can provide. It's a feeling of finally coming home to ourselves. For me, this understanding was like a quiet revelation. I had spent so much time searching, trying to become someone or achieve something that would make me feel complete. But as I began to surrender, to simply be with myself as I am, I discovered a vast peace that no success, no praise, and no accomplishment could ever give me. It was like unlocking a door to a sanctuary I hadn't realized was always there, waiting within. This is the ultimate invitation, to trust that you are already whole, that everything you need is within you, that the present moment holds all the peace, love, and joy you seek. The world may tell us to keep striving, to keep achieving, but the real treasure lies in being present, in being gentle with ourselves, and in letting go of the need for anything outside ourselves to make us feel complete. So as we close this journey, I encourage you to take a deep breath and let it all sink in. Remember that each moment is an opportunity to reconnect with your true self, to find peace in simply being, and to live fully from the heart. Because when we live from this place, everything changes, not just for us but for everyone we encounter. Thank you for being part of this journey. May you carry this sense of presence, peace, and inner freedom with you wherever life may lead.